Welcome back to the Navy Sports Magazine. Time to shine the light now on Navy wrestling with first-year head coach Cary Kolat. And, Coach, the fact that Chet Gladchuk calls you and says, hey, I'd like you to come take over our program with so many years of rich history here at the Naval Academy. Your reaction to the offer, and then obviously why was Navy the right fit for you from a coaching perspective?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've always kind of thought about Navy. I started coming here back in 2000 when my Olympic coach, Bruce Burnett, took over. Lived in the area for a time, and I think everybody knows what the Naval Academy brings to the table and what its reputation is nationwide and worldwide. And, so it was always something in the back of my mind. And, so when Chet, when I got the call from Chet, there wasn't too much hesitation. You obviously look at, your opportunities, and I was at a good situation. But it's the Naval Academy. The biggest thing for me, like I always tell people, is sitting down with Chet and knowing who you're going to work for. And, Chet wants to win, and that's where it's at. And you want to work for people who are competitive like yourself. And so there wasn't too much hesitation on my part whatsoever. And then, you know what the Naval Academy is going to bring and the type of recruits you're going to get. And it allows us to have a reach, nationwide and grab some of the best kids in the country.
To be able to coach at a program, though, where that administratively and from a fan standpoint, people care about the program, people support the program. It's important to other people as well. In the environment of college athletics, how important is that in terms of taking a job, knowing that you're going to have the kind of overall support that's necessary to have a quality program?
Yeah, it's awesome. Where I came from before, we kind of built that fan base and built that support system, and we were still building it. Here, all those pieces to the puzzle are already in place. And you've got some competitive alumni who want to win. And we've got some great support from some of these guys, from General Sattler to Tom Jones and just everybody involved. Some of the guys I've met, Wayne Hicks. These guys have been here for a long time, connected to the academy for a long time. And so it's awesome to have that kind of support from donors and from fans.
To hit the ground running, the Naval Academy is a unique place. What's been, the important thing for you here early in your tenure to not only coach wrestling, but understand, obviously, the Naval Academy itself and trying to make that adjustment to knowing what your wrestlers are encountering on a daily basis?
Yeah, it's fit. It's absolutely, it's fit. You can't just go out and get the best guy. You have to get the best guy who's, academically well-rounded, on the mat well-rounded, so he fits, so he can make it here, so he can compete at the highest level here. So that's what's important. So we really got to analyze guys off the mat and on the mat. That way, when they get here, they're not struggling, and you can't get the best athlete on the mat because they're struggling academically. I mean, it's the #1 public school in the country. These guys are pretty much set, for the rest of their lives once they're done here, and after they, complete their time in the services. So, that's the biggest thing, is understanding what guy works here. You just can't run out and grab the best guy on the mat. He's got to be able to fit in all areas of the Naval Academy.
Add the pandemic to this thing, and just talking to Logan Treaster the other day about, what you all have had to do, the things within your room, just on a daily basis, just to have practice, let alone finally get to some matches as you have this month. What kind of a challenge has that been like to endure with your wrestlers, and also, trying to get them to get to know them as much as you can and help them as much as you can? But what kind of a coaching challenge has this been like to do that with, obviously, the protocols of the pandemic?
Yeah, your A is probably the biggest thing for us, is getting to know the guys. It's hard for a guy to wrestle for you when he doesn't really know your personality. I will say these guys, made some sacrifices. We didn't force anybody to stay over Christmas. We gave them the option. If you want to go home, go home. Our policy has always been, if you don't want to be here, we don't want you here. We had everybody want to stay. In fact, we sent people home and said, no, it makes sense for you to go home during Christmas. So during this Christmas break, we finally as a staff got to connect with Logan, Casey Cobb, Cody Tribus, Luke Lucerne, some of these, plebes that are in. We finally made that connection. I think, the bus trip up to Clarion this weekend was another opportunity to make a connection. So once you start to connect with those guys, they start to understand you and they get fired up to wrestle for you. And that's, ideally, I think that's what every coach wants. You don't want to make a guy wrestle for you. You want him to want to wrestle for you. And those guys, one, wrestled for each other this week. I think they wrestled for us. They did the things that we've been training to do in terms of the principles of how we want to compete and how we want to move and how we want to attack. All those things are starting to come together. And so even with all the interruptions, I think this last month at Christmas break, we were able to play catch up a little bit because everybody's been interrupted this year. I think you've seen that. And right now we've been fortunate. We haven't had any duels canceled. We're getting our feet wet competitively, on the mat. So each time we get out there, we're getting a little bit better.
You and your staff can evaluate obviously daily within the room, but how much does that evaluation change now that you can see your guys in competitive matches, see what makes them tick while the match is going on, see what they're thinking, see how they react instinctively? How much does that evaluation process now change that you're seeing them in competitive matches?
Yeah, that's the biggest part. We'll go down. We had a good weekend this weekend with Clarion. Doesn't mean we didn't make mistakes. We'll go down at 2:00 today. We'll have things written on the whiteboard. Where we performed, we'll highlight the areas that they did. They performed the way we wanted them to compete at. And then we'll highlight the areas where they made mistakes as a group, even if it was just one guy's mistake. So everybody's learning from it. So, we've always said, like, you can drill something 100 times in the practice room, but to hit it one time in competition is a big difference. So now we're seeing how they really wrestle.
One question, doing the research for the pit matchup and getting ready for that in terms of your background, it's one of the more incredible statistics I've ever come across about anybody that I have to ask you about. Wrestling in the state of Pennsylvania is as good as it gets on the amateur level. How does a guy navigate that as a wrestler the way you did, unblemished? Because it's as good a wrestling as there is in this country, year in and year out, and has been for a long time. How on earth did you navigate that undefeated the way you did?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. You don't really think about it when you're doing it. People get really fascinated by that stat, but I always say I'd rather gone 4 years undefeated in college. So,
sure, right.
High school is high school. I mean, there's a rich tradition in Pennsylvania in terms of wrestling. And, during that time period, I was just, I was into it. I was, ahead of the curve, I guess, for that age group.
I'll ask you this too. I mean, we've seen in a lot of sports, we've seen tremendous athletes. Some succeed, some fail as coaches. How much do you have to guard against looking at the wrestler on the mat? And because of your background, and I talked about this during the pit match. I mean, you and Keith both have tremendous backgrounds. How do you look at the wrestler though as that piece of clay and his skill set, as opposed to blocking out, your skill set as a wrestler and what you did as a wrestler? Because sometimes great athletes who go into coaching sometimes can't separate the two.
Yeah. You get wiser as you get older. I think, had I been recruiting in my 20s and late 20s, I probably wouldn't have been as good as judging talent, because you're still in that competitive fire. As you get older, you get wiser. And the big thing that we look for is upside. What a kid does in high school, might put him on our radar, and then we start doing our research. But as you're recruiting, the conversations play a part. Certain things he says, are the match scores getting closer, or is he still kind of extending the gap between him and the competition? So you're really looking for upside, and then you're looking for that kid who's, mentally strong enough that when he gets here and takes some lumps, that he's going to recover from it. He's going to, accept or want the challenge, compared to somebody that might just hang their head and, give up on it. A lot of kids in high school, they've been on top for so long, and you start getting your butt kicked, it's hard to start over. Where a guy who's, maybe gotten his butt kicked a decent amount in high school, every year he's accepting the challenge. It's not been an easy process for him. And so you get a kid like that, you see his best wrestling might come in college. And for a kid who's had a lot of success in high school, you want to see when he has a setback, is he the right kid? Is he going to recover and accept the challenge again? So, success in high school doesn't mean a whole lot. It puts you on the radar, but you really got to judge the kid, correctly.
I was going to say, I'll let you out on this. Let's sell the program a little bit. What's the kind of student athlete and wrestler that you and your staff are looking for right now to come be a part of this program?
Yeah. So like I said, the biggest thing for us is a fit. We want to see a kid who wants an opportunity when the career is over on the mat, that he's got something, laid out for him. So we're looking for that. He wants to serve, and academically, he's going to be able to handle the workload that comes with being at the Naval Academy. And he's going to want that challenge. We've got a lot of kids and they get through it, but they're balanced kids. They know how to separate the two. When it's time to get in the practice room and get after it academically, they leave it behind. That's where they get their stress out. And when we walk out of the room, they're full board 100% into the academic side of the Naval Academy and the service side of the academy, everything that comes within that package. And a lot of people don't even know it's for them. Like I said, when I got here, I interviewed my team. 80% of the kids here said they never thought about the Naval Academy. And then they got a call and they started researching it and saw the opportunities and what it was going to do for their life and how it was going to change them. So just because you've never thought about it doesn't mean it's not for you. Once you really start to investigate it, the majority of people that come here never thought about the academies until later in life, and so that's what we're looking for.
Coach, awesome stuff. Appreciate the time and continued success with the rest of this wrestling season.
Thank you, Pete. I appreciate it.